Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Food for Thought podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Sarah, and this is where we show you the art of multiplication
And teach you the science of becoming. With that being said,
let's get into it. So, Taylor, what are we talking about today?
so I found probably one of the most inspiring and enlightening, I want to say it's a piece of advice, but really I think it's a lesson through a quote, through a fact, through a fable.
Okay.
And it is, the caves you fear to enter hold the treasures you seek. So today we're talking about why fear is not real. Why fear isn't what we think it is at face value, and that if we can just muster up the courage to walk through those caves, right? And they are caves because you're standing on the outside of this unknown territory that's dark, scary. Anything could be behind there in the false expectations appearing real. And if you'll just walk in there, you'll realize that it has everything you want. You walk in there, you're expecting a bear,
Yeah.
and you find your life.
Exactly. And that's what the treasures are. I mean, ultimately, yes, fear is significant in the sense that it's the driving factor, right? You're afraid of certain things, but it's almost like you want to do it anyway just to find out, right? But so when we take the concept of our life, like we were talking about this the other day, and when we were saying like we have to accept one of two realities. Either I'm gonna essentially be a wuss about it and let the fear overtake me and not do all the things that I said I'm gonna do, that I've claimed, I've manifested, that I've been talking about for ages now, that I want to accomplish and achieve and have and impact. Is the fear gonna stop me? Am I gonna accept that reality? Or am I gonna accept that it's gonna be freaking scary, but I have to just do it anyway?
Do it anyway.
Because you know that inside of that cave is the person that you want to be, or is the things that you want to do. So, like, what's the thing that you would say, I guess, you've been extremely fearful of and had to get into that cave and just simply do it?
I mean, if I'm being honest, this podcast alone. I mean, coming onto camera and, being honest, like, so you're an honest person. You want to do good for others. You want to change something in this world. However, how much of a shame would it be if you could not deliver the impact that you were meant to deliver on this planet because you could not overcome your obstacles and your barriers? Grant Cardone, so I've told you about Grant Cardone, if you listen to some of his stuff.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love that he says is he kind of puts you on the spot and he talks straight to you. Grant Cardone, he's a no mercy kind of guy.
Yeah, that's the best kind of guy to have around.
Listen, we need those kind of people.
Yeah.
Every day we have sugar coats. That's why obesity is a problem in this country. I mean, someone's got to tell it to you straight. And he says, it's very simple. Most people starve between the idea and the execution. They don't know how to get over their barriers. And he says, you have to make a decision. Will you expand or will you contract?
Yeah.
Will you go back? So another awesome quote, I don't even know who said it, but very wise. If any of you guys know, please drop it in the comments. Every day we're faced with two decisions. We can step back into safety or step forward into growth.
Yeah, and I mean, it comes down to what you said about the decision. If you cannot make a decision is an educated guess, and I expanded on this a lot in my speech that I gave in Georgia back in June, and your lack of ability to make a decision, or should I say to make the correct decision, is lack of knowledge. So all things considered, you can't say I made the wrong decision. It's that made the decision with what you had. The information that you have is what's going to determine what that decision ends up being. If you know that you don't have all the information, or that you don't have everything that it takes to make a decision, that's where the fear comes from.
Well, so then there is also that fine line, and I mean, we've been battling with this. So it's like, where is that line between I actually need more information, or this is actually an unconscious fear that
This
I
is
that I have
paralysis by
not
analysis.
that I haven't faced yet,
Yeah.
and because I haven't faced it, I'm gonna keep running circles around what needs to happen, faking myself out. I know exactly what needs to happen. I need to pull up that phone, I need to record my sales presentation, and I need to tell my prospective customers how I can change their life.
Mhm.
But why haven't I done it yet? So
It's, do I not have all the information and all the parts, or is it I'm afraid?
confidence. Confidence, baby.
Yeah. If
That-
you are convicted, you are convinced, that's what confidence is. If you are convinced that you have the information in your ability to do something, you're going to do it, right? Like, I was telling you that when I signed up, when I was invited to that speech in Georgia, the first speech I ever gave, immediately after I agreed to it and
Mhm.
signed up for it, sent all my information, it's a done deal. I'm going, or I'm the one
I
who
remember,
backed out.
you were scared shitless.
Yeah, and I'm like,
And I was
And-
scared shitless for you.
yeah,
So I'm like, my God, imagine
immediately
me.
after, yeah, immediately after, I was trying to think of all the excuses in the book to get out of it. Except I knew, because I am scared out of my mind, I might go up there and throw up. I don't know. What's the worst that could happen? I mean, that's kind of the worst. But let it happen once, and from there it can't get any worse, right? When you hit rock bottom, the only place to go is up. So do it anyway. I was trying to think of every excuse to get out of it, but it came to that point of, I have to accept one of two realities. I just signed up for this, I made a commitment to change my life, and not just because I want to give a speech, it's because I want to impact people for the rest of my life through my words.
Because you
I
know the
can.
opportunity that is there.
Exactly. Those were my treasures. I had to do it. It was scary, right? But the immediate
But how did
feeling
you feel afterward?
afterwards was,
Freaking
God,
powerful.
I could do this for the rest of my life, every single day, and I would have no problem with that.
And how about this?
I will pay people to let me do this.
So, as her brother watching, this is the first time on stage, and so I'm here helping her practice. You know, the breakdowns. You know, like, guys, we're here to give you the real stuff.
Yeah.
We cried about it.
Mhm.
The deadline's coming up. You don't
Oh,
even
yeah.
have the speech written. Is this the right speech?
Yeah.
And then now here's the moment.
Yeah.
The moment. So, the moment to run, or the moment to rise.
Yeah.
And I'm watching her, and I'm like, fingers crossed, like, don't choke, you know, like,
Yeah.
if nothing else, don't be like freaking Slim Shady, go up there and
yeah. Yeah, right?
and you freaking killed it. It was like opening a can of worms. Like, you were meant to do this your entire life. Why? Because as human beings, we possess a power within us, and that is when we are placed into a circumstance where it becomes do or die, and there is no escape. You figure out what the hell needs to happen.
Yeah.
You're on that stage. There were adults in that room watching you.
Yeah.
And
Not only was I the youngest speaker, I was also the youngest person in the room. Yet nobody knew that.
and you're up there trying to tell them how to make a decision.
It's scary.
So
But it comes
what
from-
did you do? You just did it.
But ultimately, it came from confidence in the fact that, regardless of my age, right, that was a really big intimidating factor for me. I'm
Yeah.
21 years old. What makes people think, you know, had they known that, would they have taken what I said as seriously as they did, right? And that boils down to, are you going to be cocky and say, oh, well, I have more life experience than you, so I don't have to listen to you? But also, am I going to be confident enough in my information to say, I don't care how old you are, I have this information that I firmly believe in, and my conviction is what is going to allow you to implement the things that I said. But it comes down to, had I not been willing to enter that cave,
And be prepared.
yeah,
So even though you knew you were scared, so here's really what this comes down to, guys. The cave that you fear to enter, you don't have to go in there.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do that speech.
No, no one was holding a gun to my head.
You
except
actually
for me.
paid money. You paid big money. You trained under the master
The
himself,
Les Brown.
Les Brown. You paid for that training. You did the work. You crafted a speech, rewrote it. The first one was trash. We had to eliminate it, go through, find stories, pick points, and then how to deliver with the voice inflection. There's work.
Yeah.
Why would you do that if you feel that at the moment of rise or fall or crumble or pee your pants,
Yeah.
you're gonna pee your pants? You would never have written the speech.
No.
You would never have. We would have never driven to the event.
Yeah.
This is why you always. So Les Brown, I mean, he's the man, guys. Les Brown is the man. We love him. He's like the wise old uncle that tells you the stuff you don't want to hear, but you do.
But did you know you need to hear?
He says it's always better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. And you were prepared.
Yeah. And even just the fear in the preparation, like that's the thing too, is it's not that, oh, once you enter, right, the fear prior to signing up for that event was, do I sign up for it or not? I'm scared to make this decision alone. I'm scared to lose the money because the my financial circumstances at the time were not
Yeah.
ideal for me to pay for Les Brown's course, for me to pay to go and speak at this event and you know, to get my video and,
Oh, yeah.
and all that stuff. Things were not ideal, right? There were so many factors into simply just making the decision. And then came, all right, I'm scared, I'm nervous. If I can't give this speech in front of my brother, how am I supposed to give it in front of, I don't even know how many people are going to be there.
And how about that? I'm like, come on, deliver. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah, I'm nervous.
That's weird. No, I'd rather do it this. I'm like, no, you do it now. You give it to me, and you're gonna give it to me 10
Yeah.
more times, and however many more times I request.
Mhm.
I mean, it was pretty bold what I told you. It was what, 3 practices a day for 21 days straight.
Yeah. Yeah, and it actually came out to more than that. One day, I remember you came in here and you were like, what are you doing? And I was wearing like sweatpants,
Yeah.
but I had heels on. And
Yeah.
you're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, they make me feel powerful. These are the shoes I'm going to wear. I have to practice in the shoes, feel the part, play the part. I may not look my best, but at least the shoes are on. I have to stay on my feet. That's objective number 1. But really, it boils down to, are you going to be bold enough to make the decision?
The decision to do what?
To do what scares you, to decide to
Do
enter
what
the cave.
scares the ever-loving ha-la-la-la,
Out of you.
as T.D. Jakes would say.
Yeah.
If the price is worth paying, pay it.
Yeah.
Even at the risk of you being embarrassed, even at the risk of it not being right.
But also, let's take the perspective of, if you don't know if
Ah.
the price is worth paying, do it anyway. Because how else are you going to know if you don't?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, well, you have a right to be afraid if you're not prepared, or if you're not able to deliver on what you're doing.
Yeah.
So here's the caves you fear to enter hold the treasures you seek. Number 1, you have to know what your caves are. And a lot of them are unconscious and have to be brought to the surface.
Yeah.
So when you finally have a dream or a goal or a next level in your life that you're looking at, and like, you know, in your head you're like, God, man, wouldn't that be nice,
Yeah.
right? Stop saying wouldn't that be nice, and break it down. What would have to happen? Like, imagine if somehow, some way, I snapped my fingers and I was suddenly powerful enough to do whatever. I mean, I was endowed with power to do something.
Mm-hmm.
What becomes possible then? I've been asking myself this for the past few weeks, and as you can tell, it's taken into effect.
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm assuming that I have more power, and guess what happens? I got it.
Yeah, you start to ask the questions as though you don't have to become the person yet. By asking the questions of, it's basically saying, what am I willing to do?
And
what am I willing to
admitting
accept?
who I'm not yet.
Exactly.
Being humble
But-
enough to say, hey, I am not the greatest yet. I am a freaking scaredy
Yeah,
cat right now.
But if I was the person I need to be, what could I be doing?
and
That takes
and
all the
what,
filters
and
off.
what the hell would that feel like? how good would that feel
Yeah.
to do it, to come out of it with the ideal outcome, or better than you expected, because it's almost always better than you expected.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If you don't know if it's worth it or not, if you don't know if entering that cave is worth the price that you're going to pay to enter it,
And you do it anyway.
then you do it anyway. Otherwise, how the hell are you supposed to know? Right? In all situations, starting a business, it's not easy. It's scary as hell. You don't know if it's the right business. You don't know if you have all the
Yeah.
skills that it takes. Try. If you fail, you fail. If it's not the business for you, if you don't love it, okay, call it a loss. But you wouldn't know if you didn't try. But what if it ends up being everything you ever imagined? What if it ends up being better than you ever imagined? 9 times out of 10, that's how it happens.
And the habit, so we are the compound effect of our habits. And we need to look at habits not just as, oh, well, I have a habit of drinking, or I have a habit of cursing, or it's not just, so habits are not just the ones that your most common in your family have and your friends have. Those are their habits, but there's also everything we do is a habit. The way we think is a habit. So if you guys haven't read the book Power of Positive Thinking, start there. Because there is a certain habitual way of doing things. And I mean, I've told you this before, you already know it, and you practice it too.
Yeah.
But I've told this to my clients many times. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So let's say you're torn in between, well, I don't really know for sure if I want to do this. Yeah, I'm acknowledging there is a roadblock that I am afraid of. I could go through it, but do I really want that thing? Let me tell you this. It's not even a question, you do it. Because the reason that you are having that debate, 9 times out of 10, is for what reason?
Because you're afraid.
Because you're afraid.
It's not because you don't want that thing. A prime example, I have a client.
You'll talk yourself out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's build the habit of doing the thing anyway, because even if it turned out that that's not what we wanted to do, there is 1,000% chance you are going to feel amazing afterward, and there will be not a single regret for you overcoming that fear.
And I find that, so I have a client who, the last time I saw her, we talked about, she's been talking about wanting to start a clothing line. I think I told you about her.
Mhm.
And very smart. She decided, she was in college, she decided, I don't want what I'm going to school for. I'm going to take a semester off. If I end up never going back, that's fine. But she really wants to start a clothing line for a purpose, right? She has she has the designs, the branding, very talented. She doesn't know where to start. So I started giving her all the options. There's drop shipping, there's all these options, because you don't have the money right now to do it.
And she
What
almost
are you waiting
didn't want
for?
to hear that.
It was like, oh my God, so this is actually possible to do. The excuse I've been giving myself.
Exactly. You put her ass on the spot, and
Exactly.
you're like, listen, you can do this, and she's like,
Whoa.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, I'll try it.
Yeah, and so I'm gonna see her on Thursday, and I can't wait to see her and ask her, so how's the website coming? How are the things coming?
Do you see? But
Because-
this is the importance of the no sugarcoating.
Yeah.
Guys, be real people to those who you care about. So here's an idea of a fear, right? So a cave that you fear to enter is telling your significant other, or your mother, or your sister, or your cousin the truth. Someone who needs to kind of hear the truth, and you see the truth, you know it, and it's something you know. It's not now if it's a debate. Now you don't say what you're not sure of. But if you're sure of something and you're not saying it because you're afraid they may not take it well, at least for me, and I know for you,
Yeah.
we say it anyway, because who else is going to give you the hard truth? Who else is going to give one piece of real, strong, life-altering, hard advice that you could give to someone? Yes, maybe right now they get pissed at you.
Yeah.
They get mad. They're not about it
Yeah.
because they can't
But let's be
understand it
honest,
yet.
But a lot of times, the only reason they get, it's not mad, they're defensive, because you're
Yes.
telling them something that they know, and either they love you for it, or they're mad because you just exposed them. And they realize someone else caught on to my lack of ability to do.
And then also, there's a skill set in that. How do you deliver harsh advice in the best way? Remember, I've given you some harsh advice, and I handled it in a way where it was more about the topic, and it wasn't a personal thing because you knew my intention was pure. There was no doubt about it.
And that's where I hear Les Brown saying, I don't know if it's originally him, but he says, that's where you have to separate what you do from who you are.
Yep.
Don't take it personally. If you fail, if you're afraid to do something and it doesn't work out, don't take it personally. If somebody's telling you something about your business, who knows more about business than you,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, well, why are you going to tell me that? I've been in business for 2 years. Yeah, this guy's been in business for 35 years. Don't you think you should take his advice?
Yeah, guys,
Don't
humility.
take it personally. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with your actions. You made the decision that you made because of the knowledge that you had. If someone comes along with an outside perspective and may or may not have more information than you and says, hey, maybe you should give this a try, don't you think you should listen?
Or
the
at
only
least,
reason you
or
haven't
at
done
least
it is because
question.
you're scared. Exactly.
Like when we automatically throw up that barrier, hey, talk to the hand, I'm not listening to you, let me tell you what happens to you. You will always be where you are.
Yeah.
And now unless you are living that dream life that you could have, which hopefully you never actually reach that point, because once you reach one point, you got to get to the other. We are growth machines. I mean, we learned this one way back when.
Yeah.
How tall can a tree grow?
As high as
it
you
possibly can.
Yeah.
There is no limit on it.
Yeah.
But when you do this, you limit the growth of that tree, and whoever that person was that you put the hand up, how many times before they say, you know what,
It's not
even
worth it.
It's not even worth it.
Yeah.
Isn't that a freaking shame?
Yeah.
The person
You've decided that you've peaked.
who sees the potential, who sees what you're doing wrong, is trying to tell you, and you don't have the humility and the maturity to own up to it and say, hey, I'm sorry. What were you telling me? Because now guess what? When you're on that track, there will come a point where now the world is crumbling down, and who do you have? Because you did this to everyone that tried to give
That
you the
wanted to
hand,
help you.
and you said, no, I got it.
Yeah.
Never do that. Don't ever do that.
Yeah. Well, because ultimately those are the people who decided, I'm comfortable, I'm good, I've peaked, right? We had this conversation with our cousins the other night at dinner. We haven't seen them in forever.
Yeah.
And one of them is in later middle school, and she's like, oh, I'm not very cool, like whatever. Or you said, oh, that makes you the coolest kid in school, huh? And she's like, oh God, I wish. And you're like, no, you don't want to be the coolest kid in school, because the kids who peaked in middle and high school, if you peaked at 13 years old,
That's it.
God, imagine how
40 years now of
you
going,
end up in the ground.
40 years downhill now.
Yeah.
Thank God
Yeah.
I was awkward
You
in
end
high
up
school.
lower than you started. It's one of these.
Yeah.
Who wants that?
But here's the advice for anybody who did peak in high school. You can always switch your focus and climb another mountain.
Yeah.
There is no limit to any mountains or any caves that lie ahead. You just have to figure out what you want and go after it.
Yeah, it's that simple. No limitations. And when you start, the only way that this can happen is if you have a firm belief and understanding in the fact that nothing is out to get you. What you are seeking is also seeking you. If you are seeking problems, right? Jim Rohn, I love it. It makes me laugh every single time. He's like, I'm listening to this guy and he's talking about, I'll give you 10 reasons why that won't work. What an idiot. All you need is one.
Yep.
If you are seeking reasons why it's not going to work, or obstacles or problems, there's a difference between seeking problems and foreshadowing something that may come up so that you can be prepared to handle it.
Yeah.
But if you're seeking problems, it means you're seeking excuses to not do it, which means that is what's also seeking you. You
So-
are simply attracting the problems. The only way you're going to enter the cave is if you believe it's going to happen for me. Something is whether you're a person of faith or not, and I think that in self-development, having some sort of faith, you have to be faithful in.
It's a requirement.
It's a requirement. You can't say, I'm on my own here.
Because
It doesn't work
there are
that way.
so many unknowns or risks or
Yeah.
caves that you have to say, oh, I'm scared. It's like when you're a kid and you go to Halloween Horror Nights, your mom tells you they can't touch you, don't
Yeah.
worry, you're safe, yet you're still like, right?
Yeah, Chucky's standing in front
But-
of you and you're about to.
But what happens? Your faith is stronger than your fear. Why? Because you walked through.
Mhm.
You were hesitant. You were scared. You're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. But the fact that you keep moving forward inch by inch is your faith that, okay, they can't touch me, they can't touch me, they can't touch me. Or when you're really young and you're in your bed and you think there's monsters in your closet, and the whole night, part of you is battling with, there's a freaking monster in my closet, but every time I call my mom, she tells me there's nothing there. All right, believe mommy,
Have faith
believe
in her.
mommy, right?
Yeah.
So how about this is the exact same formula we're talking about, but at the higher level.
Well, we can also
and we don't have to label it. Don't put a label on what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove your faith to anyone else. Do it for
It's going
you.
to prove itself for you.
It's in your best interest to have faith that this is a positive, conspiring universe and not a
Conspiring against.
conspiring against. The universe is for you rather than against you.
Yeah. And once you know that, not once you hear that, once you know that, because
Now, once you talk yourself into that,
yeah, because
That's it.
but that's the thing is you have to firmly believe it. You can't just say it. You have to say it until it becomes
you fake it till you make it.
exactly until it becomes your reality.
But-
Because without that,
So the fake it, but you fake it and then you act. So there was an element of trust. You did something, you're not really sure, but you're like, all right, I'm gonna pretend that I have faith and everything's gonna be okay, and let's try it out. And then you try it out, and then everything was okay.
yeah,
Boom, faith goes up, and that habit's being built. Next time, now over time you start learning, you know what? Every time that I've been afraid of something, and I ended up just doing it anyway, it actually turned out pretty all right.
yeah,
Maybe I should do a little more of that.
yeah. It's like the small wins in your actions and everything. It's the same concept except for a higher purpose because it kind of works for you in the sense that you don't have to consciously be thinking about it. You know, when
So-
you're making a decision, you don't have to say, "Oh, well, I have to make this decision with faith." You make the decision because the faith is already there, or not there.
Knowing that either way, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
If it's wrong, so Jim Rohn says, just pick a direction and go with it with everything you got.
Yeah.
Why? Well, what? And then he's like, and some people will tell me, well, what if it's the wrong way? What if I made the wrong decision? Well, you'll find out quicker,
Yeah.
right? You're not going to go
Exactly.
10 years down the totally wrong path if you're actually looking to figure out if it's the wrong or right path.
Yeah.
So as long as you're looking
You're
for the right
searching.
signs, and I think that's a great place for us to conclude. I want to leave you guys off with one quote. Bob Proctor is the man. He said, so that was actually the first that I had heard, the caves you fear to enter, hold the treasures you seek. And so we started with him, we're going to end with him. He says, spend all of your time thinking about how it can work, and spend no time thinking about why it won't. If you follow that recipe, if you implement that formula, your accomplishment, your success, your faith, your happiness, your life will be incredible.
Your life depends on it. All right, guys. So with that being said, have a beautiful day, and we will see you next week on Food for Thought.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to share and like below.
And subscribe.